Hello. Well, this is the video I didn't really want to make, but felt like I had to. So let's get into it. Let's discuss myths about Ayn Rand. So the first one is welfare. Did Ayn Rand die penniless and needed the assistance of the government even though she uh, railed against it and in her philosophy? So the question is, did she take Social Security? The answer is yes. 4 years towards the end of her life, the government sent a nurse to her home called Miss Heller, and Miss Heller needed to register Ayn Rand and I believe her husband to some medical services. And in order to receive those medical services, Ayn Rand needed to be registered on Social Security. So Miss Heller persuaded Ayn Rand to be registered to it, and she basically said that because Ayn Rand had paid into Social Security her whole life, that it's only fair that she get back some of the money that she had put into it. And Ayn Rand agreed, although the nurse had power of attorney and it was the nurse who signed the papers, but Ayn Rand did agree to it. What's less known about the situation is what was Ayn Rand's wealth at the time of her death. So it was about $800,000 in 1982, a mix between her estate and the money she had in the bank, or the majority was the money she had in the bank. How much did she take from Social Security? So basically, she took in total $11,000 on those 4 years that she was on Social Security, where 13 years that she would have been eligible for Social Security she was not on. And with discussing to how much money she put into the system, she had book deals where she sold millions of books, where I'm not entirely sure, but it would seem very likely that it's $11,000 is way less than the money she had put into the system. So the other thing people don't like about, or things you can find on Reddit, is that Ayn Rand is a racist. Specifically, it's about to do with an issue with property rights or land rights. And basically what Ayn Rand is saying that nomadic tribes do not deserve land rights on land they don't occupy and build on and can create stuff on and work on. If it's just land that they move around on, then she is of the opinion that they do not deserve land rights to it. Now this particularly affects Native Americans, and it also affects people in the Middle East, in particular around the time that OPEC put an oil embargo on the United States. Ayn Rand said that it was the oil company that discovered those oil. They built the rigs to extract it from the ground. They discovered the techniques to refine the oil, and the people in the Middle East were just, I'm assuming, nomadic tribes in that area, and the oil companies just gave it all to those people in the area. Also, in the context of Native Americans, she also did call them savages. But the question is it because of their skin color or is it because of their culture? Now, Ayn Rand did have a very pro-reason philosophy in which she rejected the primitive, as she called it. She rejects the concept of the noble savage. She rejects mysticism. And she rejects tribalism, both in this context and in the context of tribalism nowadays. And also with regards to racists in particular, she was very much against them. She called them cavemen. And she said that racism is a philosophy for brutes. Now I will include links in the description for how she described rejection of the primitive and how she described racism, which he was very much against, and I would leave it up to the readers to decide for themselves. Another common thing about Ayn Rand is her interpretation of Kant. People say that she didn't understand Kant, and that basically any 22-year-old, who's studying philosophy, can understand Kant better than Ayn Rand. The thing is that Ayn Rand evaluated Kant based on what I would call as a way to bridge the understanding between myself and the people listening as a sort of lens. She would not see it as a lens, she would see it but basically just as reality. But just so to bridge the gap, think of it as she's using a lens to evaluate Kant's ideas, and in particular how people at the time understood those ideas, how those ideas influenced them, influenced the people, influenced the culture, and influenced the philosophy following Kant, in particular the ideas, and how those ideas led to other ideas. So the lineage of ideas from Kant to people, to other philosophers. I do get this comment a lot, but he didn't say that. This is kind of like the idea where Ayn Rand says, well, Kant said this, and says, no, Kant philosophy says this, and then someone said, but he didn't say that, or that they'll bring up like a one line that says, well, here he's saying the exact opposite of what you're saying. But the idea is that are these like sentences here and there, are they integrated into the core ideas that Kant is presenting, or is it just like an offhanded comment? And well, I don't know if offhanded, but like a comment that's not connected to the core ideas. And I get this a lot with people interpreting Karl Marx. And Karl Marx basically had like 59 years or 50 plus years to develop like a philosophy against capitalism. And within that period of time, you can always find like a sentence here and there that you say, well, he didn't understand this, or he said that, and then you can find like a sentence, well, here's a sentence where he said the opposite, or here's the sentence where this is why you're wrong. But the question is it integrated into his core ideas, and how other people understood them? Now, in particular, Kant's ideas, or Ayn Rand, the kind of evaluation is that Kant's ideas were the foundation, or they led to the atrocities that happened in the 20th century. As in, he was the groundwork for those other philosophers to come in, more nefarious philosophies that led to the death and destruction we saw in the 20th century. An example of this could be polyllogism. So, did Kant specifically advocate for polyllogism? No. But without his ideas, polyllogism could not have happened. And there are other philosophers, or Ayn Rand, at the time when she was discussing this, even when she was writing her other books, she was surrounded by other philosophers. And in particular, her later protege did his master's thesis on Kant. So there were people around her that could tell her if like maybe she misunderstood it, if like there was an error that it could have been corrected during that time, but they all agreed with her. And even philosophers after her death that expanded or tweaked her, or I'm not sure if that's the right way, but for argument's sake, let's say expanded or tweaked her philosophy, none of them like said, well, she didn't understand Kant. They all agree that she did, and this is like a way of viewing how his ideas affected people and history and other philosophical systems. Now I just want to add one last thing before I finish, that rarely, very, very rarely have I seen anyone actually engage with her ideas. I've never seen someone says, well, this idea in a good faith discussion is wrong because of this. Typically those 3 points like welfare, racism, and Kant were where people stop. Typically welfare is the main one. If they dig a bit past it, then racism is where they stop, and some people like go all the way up to Kant and then they stop. No one actually discusses the ideas that she talks about. If there's like a tiny portion that goes past Kant, it's still like a smear around things that, and it's never the actual ideas themselves, which is unfortunate, because it means they have to actually read her ideas. But anyway, I'm glad you watched the video. If you're pro Ayn Rand or anti Ayn Rand, thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next video, I suppose.